This is our show.
What if it really works?
A practical guide to spirituality. And Karen, we're talking to Brad Love of Austin, Texas. What's his deal?
Well, he has quite a deal. One of the reasons that we're talking to Brad today is because he has started a new project, and it is called Symphony Awakening. So, Brad, share with our viewers today what Symphony Awakening really is.
About a year ago, I've heard about a tribe in the Amazon that for thousands of years lived unaware of the modern world. And they soon found out about the modern world as there were those that discovered there was petroleum and lumber in their ancestral rainforest, and that these visitors decided that that was theirs and that they needed to take it. And the Achuar tribe was the tribe, and they had a little issue with that. And so they called out for help, and some good citizens of the United States went to help them. And when they got there, the elders of the village said, if you're here to help us, you're wasting your time. If you really want to help us, you'll go back to the tribes of the north, the tribes of the modern world, and wake them up from their trance of consumption and acquisition with no regard for the consequences to the natural world or even to their own children and their own future, and that all rainforests are threatened because of this trance. And so these citizens came back to the United States and started researching to find out, well, the audacity of this tribe to suggest that the modern world was in some kind of trance of consumption. And some friends of mine and I started thinking about it also, and never realized or never thought about, we're living the American dream. Entrepreneurs, you work hard, you can reap the rewards of your hard work, and we like our lifestyle. And so for somebody to suggest that there's a problem with it was something that we hadn't considered. And when we started looking a little deeper, we realized that we never thought about what it took to get what we have. So for instance, if somebody were to ask a normal American where your food came from, I have no idea where it came from.
The grocery store.
Yeah, just,
most of the time.
Or what it took to, to produce the petroleum, the fuel that you use in your vehicle or to heat and cool your house. So when we started looking closer at that, we found out that because of the discovery of fossil fuels a couple hundred years ago, there was a huge breakthrough in science. And suddenly we as human beings were able to multiply the horsepower of pulling a plow. So no longer did we need one horse to pull a plow. We had this device that burned fossil fuels that was worth 20 horses. And then agriculture just boomed, which meant you could feed more people, which meant that the population started growing. And for thousands of years, the population of the human species stayed pretty steady until a couple hundred years ago when the new technology and discoveries made it possible for us to eat more, eat better, have more safety and comforts, and the population just started growing exponentially. And I think we just hit a $7 billion mark, $7 billion population on the planet. And that the way that we've been using the resources, the earth has not been able to keep up with renewing it. There is apparently a way to use the resources that nature can keep up and replenish it. And we have not been doing that. That is not sustainable. So It also turns out that there is a growing conversation around the planet that the realization that our acquisition of resources is no longer sustainable. But there are ways that we can do that, that we can live the lifestyle that we have, and use our relationship to the resources in a renewable, reusable way. So turns out that there are millions of people around the planet, entrepreneurs and human beings that are problem solvers, and they have taken it upon themselves to research and discover and make available resources and technology and know-how. The scientists agree all over the world now that we have the technology, resources, and know-how to live a sustainable life on the planet. And they are taking actions to make that happen. So there was a symposium created called Awakening the Dreamer, Changing the Dream. And it addressed where we are as a species, our relationship to the resources. It addressed what is possible and where we can go from there. And I was trained as a facilitator in that symposium, and what I discovered was that it was a fabulous insight. The conclusion was that humanity is not a flawed species, that we have all the resources, technology, know-how to make this planet work for everybody, and that there are millions of people already working hard at it. But you don't hear about it in the media. You don't hear about it in the politicians. And I, using my background in media, came up with an idea to take that symposium and convert it to transform it into an experience, into a concert, and use the arts to do that. And so I created the Symphony Awakening concert. And what I also realized out of the symposium is that once you realize that there are great resources, technology, know-how going on, that it would be useful if you could access it, if you knew it was there. And it turns out that in Austin, for instance, the movement, the Green Revolution that I'll call it, and this awakening is happening all over the planet, like humanity's immune response has kicked in. And it's happening right here in Austin. So I included a Green Expo as part of the concert. So once somebody experienced the message of this amazing dream culture tribe in the Amazon that had the insight to suggest that that the modern world was stuck in a trance and not realizing the consequences of their actions, and that it was simply a matter of waking up, so the concert is like a rock opera where it tells the story of the indigenous tribe and their revelation and their efforts to save their home, and what I call the new indigenous tribe, which I refer to as humanity. And so the concert is an unfoldment of the story of where we are and how we got here and what's possible. And it's we've put one on already, and it's a huge success. It's a collaboration of musicians and artists and monologues and poetry that just flows like a river. And it was a huge success, great reviews. People loved it. People wished that they had brought their friends. And then right after that, we had 35 vendors of all different kinds of talents and resources, from solar panel people to organic gardeners to all these different technologies and ways that we can be more self-reliant and live healthier, more cost-effective lives. So it affects our pocketbook, and people had a blast there too. I had one lady tell me that that the spirit in the room was palpable, and so that fulfilled my goal with generating an experience for people. And symphony really is, scientists say that everything is in a state of vibration, that even rocks, that everything's in motion, even rocks, and that every motion creates a vibration, which creates a sound. And so that's basically the symphony, is life singing. And what we're doing is bringing a voice to those who have not been heard. So, and the awakening is really just recognizing that that we live in amazing times, and that we as a species have the opportunity to now, it's almost like a transition, some kind of transformation, like from a caterpillar to a butterfly, and that's happening, and it's certainly happened for me, and so this is a celebration of that.
And it's also happened for a lot of the people that saw the Symphony Awakening when it was first done here in Austin on the 15th of January.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this question. One of the things that I noticed in the Symphony Awakening is toward the end, Paul Hawken, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Paul Hawken of Hawkins, Smith and Hawkins,
Mm-hmm.
the store, and he has many other financial interests, but he gave an address about how we really are able to do this. We're not going to have a crisis or a global catastrophe that we have to go through in order to wake up about what's going on in the environment. And to cite the footnote for that, he lists a number of the organizations around the world that are working on this process that you've never heard about. And as the credits of those organizations were scrolling up on the screen, he said it would take us how long to see all those names?
Well, those were a list of a couple million that he has discovered and known about. What they all have in common is a commitment to bringing an environmentally sustainable, socially just, peaceful human presence to the planet. And it's the largest social movement in the history of humankind. And the cool thing about it is it has no leader, has no name, has no ism that's part of its philosophy. It really is like Mother Earth's immune response has kicked in, or humanity's immune response has kicked in. And it's a grassroots movement. And he said if he were to play the whole list for that audience he was speaking to, that it would literally take about 3 weeks to do that. And part of the beauty of that revelation is that we have a pretty long list of organizations in Austin like that. And really the movement for me is grassroots and starts where you're at, in your home, in your community. It really is about buy local and grow local and support local. And it is about community. It's about cooperation and organization of community versus dominance of empire, which has been the prevalent rule for 5,000 years now or so on the planet. And
so this evolutionary shift that we've been talking about, everybody, for years, really is happening. And it's happening about our environment, and it's happening about our spirit, and about our identity is that we are all one.
Yep, we're all in this together.
So Brad, not everybody gets to wind up being a potential Broadway producer. And you're well on your way to that. The Symphony Awakening has taken place once, and now you have invitations to take it to Houston, is that correct?
Yes.
And to Phoenix?
Yes.
So if somebody is listening to this in Dayton, Ohio, and they think, wait a minute, this is a great idea, and they want you to come to Dayton, Ohio, what are the odds that you'll come there?
Great. It's a fun experience. I'm just not a doom and gloom type person, and rather than the Mayan translation of that this year is the end times, for me it's the opening of doors time. And so there's rumor that there's power in what you think and what you focus your thoughts on. So I've chosen to make it a practice to focus on how I'd like for it to be. And it's working pretty well for me in my life. And so even if it turns out that it's just a dream or whatever, it's working for me, I'm sticking with it.
Awaken the dreamer.
It's working for me. And the beauty of it is that the more you, I think anybody hears about this, then it's too late. It's their time for waking up. And it's not even an intellectual decision that you make. It's more of a heart-warming thing. It's one of those things that when you hear it, you know it on a deeper level. It's not that you even need evidence or, a philosophically nice poem or something. It's just something you know in your heart. And so I see that constantly.
But one of the things about teaching that we learn is that you have to see it, feel it, sense it. So some people have to hear it. So when you take in all and taste, so you have all your senses that must be involved, and different people are able to absorb things in different ways. Like some people are visual learners and some people are auditory learners. But what you have done with Symphony Awakening is you have pulled all the senses into motion so that everybody can get it, no matter who they are or which way their sense of learning is.
That's a wonderful insight into that. Thank you for that, because it is the intention is not to translate another great philosophy. It's to create an opportunity for an experience. And you really can't even package it. You almost have to be in the symphony at the event to experience it.
And it will change whoever's there. I mean, by who attends, the energy of the symphony will be different each time.
Absolutely. And that's also, like right now we're using a band, the Eggmen, who are Austin's premier Beatles tribute band. And I specifically used music that was a deep part of the American culture, that when people heard the music, it would bring them back into their heart and into their history and into their memories. And music is such a healing, wonderful thing. And so if they got caught up in some mind trip about whether there is global warming or whatever these other issues are, which we all would be wise to at least pay attention to considering, that that the music would help keep bringing them present again to the joy and the revelations that are upon us. And and we're using a lot of other elements, even smell, that which is a very sensitive thing. To involve the whole being.
Well, I tell you, you had the drum sisters there, and that was really I mean, I loved it all, but there's something about the heartbeat of Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And when those women play those drums, they are the drums.
Yeah.
They are so amazing. It's very, very, very powerful.
Yeah, and they're such beautiful souls too.
Mm-hmm.
And all this compilation has been many people volunteering their time and their hearts and their vision to it. And I want to pay them as the professionals that they are, and that the symphony needs to be a commodity that has the value that it pays for itself. So that's my goal with it. We came close this last time, but in the free market, if you have a product and it's an art form that is viable and there's a want and a need for it, then it will pay for itself. And so I'm not looking for charity. I'm looking for sponsors, and the other thing that's beautiful about this is acknowledging that green is the new gold, and that you're seeing that corporations now, big corporations and small businesses, are recognizing that green is good, that sustainable is good. And I also want to bring a spotlight. I consider those, that management and those businesses that are committing themselves to sustainability as heroes for our community. They're taking the risk and they're taking the lead to research and make available alternatives to what we've become accustomed to. And so,
And the more those of us who use organic products or locally grown products, the less expensive they will become. Originally, you know, the cost of having organic food is a little bit more than what you would pay for regular food in the grocery store. But when everybody uses, when the mass insists on having organically grown foods,
exactly.
then it will not be anymore. The cost will balance itself out.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this too, is that you can vote with your dollar. Mm-hmm. That we, you know, people, what can little me do? Well, we have a huge impact every day, just how we spend our money. What businesses and organizations we support by handing them our dollars. So
one of the points that was made by one of the local Austin green leaders or proponents was that in the current situation, a stalk of broccoli has to travel 1,800 miles from California to get to Austin. And that has a lot of negative consequences associated with it in terms of freshness and the use of fossil fuels to get them there and all the rest of it. So the biologists say that there is a thing called instantaneous evolution. It builds up and builds up in a way that you don't almost notice it, and then boom, in an instant, the organism changes. Mm-hmm. And I think what you're contributing to is an instantaneous evolutionary shift that's going on right before our eyes. And we are not watching it, we are it. Yeah. And one of the reasons that I'm so excited about spending some time with you in front of this camera, Brad, is that Karen and I have known you for as long as we've lived in Austin, and you have proved over and over and over again that you're one of the most positive, capable, self-motivated, highly led people that we know. And the other day you quoted to us a poem. It's not your poem, but it's a great poem that you believe, and I agree with, says who you are. Would you repeat that for the viewer?
One of the poems that I discovered in the last year or so that I love was by George Bernard Shaw, and it's called The True Joy in Life. And it goes something like this. The true joy in life is the being used by a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. The being a force of nature rather than a feverish, selfish cloud of ailments and grievances complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I'm of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and for as long as I live, it's a privilege to do for it whatever I can. I plan on being thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me, but a sort of flaming, brilliant torch which I have a hold of for the moment and intend to make burn as brightly as possible before passing it on to future generations.
Wow.
That's great.
And I love that.
Beautiful.
What I realized out of that too, though, is that when I die, I plan on being thoroughly used up, but I don't want to die because I was thoroughly used up. So there's a gray area in there to take care of yourself, to live life fully, but not in a way that it takes you down, but just in a way that when it's your last day on the stage, that you know that you lived it to the fullest possible. And it's like that movie with John Travolta called Michael, and he plays the role of Archangel Michael. And he was given permission to come back to Earth for some mission that he was on. And he just was so excited about that because he loved hanging out on Earth. All the smells and the tastes and the colors and all the different kinds of creatures. And, you know, it was like getting to go to a fabulous amusement park. And that's the way I view life. And I mentioned the other day that I thought it was a privilege to be able to be a human being here in these times. And this guy said, well, why do you think it's a privilege? And I just really realized that if you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven except as a child. And there's an innocence there that a child smells the smells like it's new, sees the colors like it's new every day, all the time. Hear the birds sing. And it moves you deeply if you can be that present with how amazing this world is that we're in. So,
Well, I'll tell you this, the little 8-year-old boy in me, when I sat there and watched the moon rocket lift off from Cape Kennedy, and the way you had the sound amped up so that every bone in my body shook as that rocket took off.
In the Symphony Awakening, yeah. Yeah.
That set the stage right there. And if you're in Dayton, Ohio, or Portland, Maine, or Miami, Florida, and you want to see this, we'd like for you to get in touch with Brad. And Brad, how do they get in touch with you?
You can go to www.symphonyawakening.org, and there's a contact place there for that, or brad@symphonyawakening.org. Either one.
That's wonderful.
Will work.
We know that this is the beginning of something really special, and we are truly grateful that you've taken the time to share your dream with us, that you've taken the time to create something that's really memorable, and that you stand ready to see to it that others get to share in the experience.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm excited about it, to see where it could go. It's art. It's an artwork, so it'll never quite be the same. And it'll include all the characters and players at whatever location that we're at. And my prayer is that it support the community wherever we're at. The point is that we have riches right here in our own village, and it takes a village. And we're just going to shine the spotlight on everybody doing good stuff. So,
Karen?
Well, you know, Brad, we love you. We love you because your spirit is so sweet and you have this joy for life. And I'm really grateful for you sharing that joy with a multitude of people all over the world now.
Thank you. I love you too. I love you guys a lot. And it makes it such a great difference to surround yourself with people that love you unconditionally and support and encourage you to follow your dream. And everybody has a part to play. And as Lynn Twist said, who was one of the originators of the Awakening the Dreamer Symposium, everybody has a gift to offer. It may not be a big gift, it may not be a little gift, but it's your gift. And that's without which, them adding this part, without which we are as a humanity impoverished. So the gatekeepers are out there. All the answers, just like the medicinal plants they find in the rainforest, all the solutions to all of our problems. Part of the things that are addressed is assumptions that we live by and unexamined, like scarcity, the idea of scarcity, there's not enough, and so you have to hoard and control, which is a myth, but it's a paradigm, an underlying belief system, an assumption that our cultures have lived by for a long time. So part of the awakening is re-examining the assumptions that we live by and seeing if they continue to work for you. And if not, we can choose new. People don't realize that they can make new choices. Another unexamined assumption is that everything is separate, that you can, well, as my sister put a great example, the idea of having a smoke section in the restaurant is, she said, that's the same thing. That's like having a peeing section in the public pool. And, you know, the idea that, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they thought it was fine to throw leaking radioactive barrels of trash off the New York shore into the ocean, and that it'll just disappear. And so, and a lot of the technology now in our approach to life as a culture is not realizing that we live in a web of life, and that we're all connected, and everything is connected. And what you do, as the Indians say, we are all relations. We're all related. And as the famous wombat said, we're related to the butterflies and the trees and the ocean and tacos, and even those pesky neighbors that look different from you next door. They're not going away. We have to learn to get along. We have to learn to share. They're not going away. We're all in this together. So,
Thank you, Brad.
Say the magic words, Karen.
God bless you, Brad, and this work that you're doing. We're grateful to have you with us today.
thank you.
You bring peace to people. Go in peace. Bless
So
you.
good. Thank you. I can keep going for hours.